Hey everybody, it's Liz Larson with Transform One Idea, and here I am with a wing again. I don't know what it is with me and wings in my hair. Wings, maybe I have wings. So, hey, today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that is stressing me out. So, it's back to school. So, when they start to advertise backpacks on the TV, on commercials, I start to have a panic attack. Now, what's weird about that this year is I don't have anybody going back to regular school. I just have my son who's in college. My daughter's also in college, but long since out of regular school. And I noticed myself starting to get nervous. I mean, really having some stress and some panic. So I started thinking about all of the parents out there whose kids really are going back to regular public school, private school, even homeschool. It doesn't matter. There's a certain level of stress. We actually start to get our adrenals activated and we get some fight or flight going. And parents who are out of school, think about this. How often in your life have you had a dream, well, a nightmare, about being in school? Mine is middle school. Middle school was horrifying. And I have a reoccurring nightmare that I'm back in school. I don't know where my locker is. I don't know what the number is if I could find it. And also I've missed a class for the entire year and I'm trying to figure out, do I still have the books? Can I sneak back in the class and they won't notice I'm not there? I mean, and I've been out of school a long time, longer than I'd like to admit. So why do I have a certain kind of PTSD, post-traumatic stress, around school when I'm not in school anymore and I don't have a child in school anymore? The reason is that it's big. There are so many pieces of things that we get stressed about around school. So one of the simplest things is it's a new schedule. Usually in summer, people's schedules are a little more free. We have more time. Kids have more time. We're not rushing to get to school. We're not having bedtimes that are very early. We're not having getting up times that are very early. And so that little piece, that shift in our daily schedule creates stress. And kids don't really want to go back to school that often. So there's a stress around not really wanting to start that pattern again. And they start to have resistance and we start to have resistance. I know some parents love it when their kids went back to school. I never did. It always gave me some panic, some stress. So there's other kinds of drama. So clothes are a huge thing for many kids. What are we going to wear? What's in this year? If I wear the wrong thing, am I going to be made fun of? Is my dress appropriate for school? Many schools have lots of new rules about that. I just heard recently that one of the high schools in our area is no longer allowing girls to wear heels because it's a safety hazard. I mean, there's so many things. So you go to school dressed in the wrong thing and you might get in trouble with the administration. Not to mention that kids might make fun of you. So that's one of the stresses. What about carpool, parents? Do you have drama around carpool? Who's going to drive your kid? Do you remember to pick up the kids? How many kids are there going to be? Are there kids that your kids don't like? Are there parents that maybe you don't like? I mean, it all starts this energy of stress. Speaking of energy, your children are now going to be back in a room with 30 to 50 plus other kids and all of the energy that they have going on. If you have a sensitive kid, they feel it. Don't make any mistake. They feel it. I was talking with an amazing teacher here in our local area who said he was really aware of that when one child had a fallout or a meltdown, and he's dealing with little kids, he could tell that all of the other kids' energy was affected and that they felt it. And sometimes they didn't get the class back the whole day. So that's big and it's real. It's something to really, really, really consider. So what about pressure once your child gets there? To make friends? Again, to wear the right thing? To act the right way? To say the right words? What about getting grades? It's immediate. There's testing, there's levels, And are your kids having stress about whether or not they're going to make the grade, make the cut, be in tag or be in special ed? There's all of that. It really gets those adrenals and that fight or flight going. Now, I've listed probably what I have on my list. I mean, that's probably 20 things already that are creating stress. And then we add other things on, like bullying. And I have a question for you parents. Is there any chance that you are bullying your own child? Now, everybody's going to be mad about this, but hold on and just listen. Are you bullying your child with labels? So we don't like it when people call our kids dumb or gross, or we don't like it when the bully of the school calls them names. But are we doing it ourselves? So do you have a child who has a learning disability? Do they have ADD, ADHD, autism? Are they on the spectrum? Are they learning disabled? If so, are you using those labels to talk about them in front of them? Do you go to the school and immediately start talking with other parents and introduce your child or yourself as a parent of a child with autism, or a parent of a child with ADHD, or my child has this learning disability or that? You might consider how that is filtered through the head of your child, through the ears of your child, and through the energy of your child. Do they want to be introduced as a label of what they can't do or what they're struggling with? So I spoke with a parent recently who has a child on the autism spectrum about this, and he said, well, we want people to know so that people don't judge the child or me if my child doesn't live up to what everybody else can do. Well, right now, what everybody else can do is all over the place. So I'm one of those parents who has a child who learns differently. And I made myself aware of this type of labeling that I didn't want, and I didn't want to introduce myself or my child with a negative. So what I learned for myself, and communications is one of those things I'm passionate about. What could I do that really supported my child and describes that they learn differently? Because I happen to think that's a fantastic thing, that your child learns differently. So what I would say is that my child thinks in really big concepts, and that's true about him. Well, the opposite is that he couldn't do the minutia of school. So I had to find another way to educate him. But the truth is, he thinks in massive concepts. It's a tremendous thing and a really positive thing. And I noticed that when I said that to people, they would say, really? What does that mean? And so I would get to describe the way that he takes in information, that he processes information. It's spectacular. And you can do the same thing. You can introduce yourself as a parent of a child who loves to draw, who's an amazing artist. You can introduce yourself as a parent of a real soccer fan. You can introduce yourself as a parent of a child who loves dolls and is into her babies. Think about it. There's a million things that come before that label that has a little bit of a negative connotation, and a connotation about what your child can't do. During the summer, there's no issue with that. There's relief from that for them because they're not being judged on how they learn or how they interact with most other children. So consider this. Are you being a bully and adding stress to your child inadvertently? And if you are, change the way you communicate. So there's an NLP saying that the meaning of your communication is how it's received. Meaning, when you say something and it's received by your child as a negative, it's a negative, no matter how you mean it. You could mean it in the very best way possible, and it might still be really received as that. Consider yourself. Do you want to be introduced by the thing that maybe you consider is the most negative thing about you? I mean, do you want to introduce yourself? Hi, I'm Liz, and I struggle with depression, laziness, overeating. I mean, whatever it is that you struggle with in your life, do you want to be introduced that way? So consider it. Just take it in and think about a way that's maybe more positive. As you speak about your child in a more positive way, as you introduce them by the fantastic things that they are, people see them that way. It changes your perspective as well. It reminds you of how amazing and unique they really are. And so many children now are being given these labels. It tells us that our kids are coming in different. And that means we have to do something different, and so does the school. So try that on for size. Just try changing your language a little bit. See if it alleviates your stress and theirs. Teachers are a thing that kids get really stressed about. Is their teacher going to like them? Are you going to like their teacher? Is the teacher going to like someone else more? It's a big stress. So that's something that your child deals with and may have some real anxiety about. And I'm going to give you some ideas for how to, I told you 5, I just gave you 1. I'm going to give you some ideas for how to alleviate some of this stress. So one of the things that you can do with your children is start a game or a ritual in the car on the way to school. So deep breathing. So one of the ways that you can do this is, kids love counting, especially little kids. Breathe in for 4. Breathe out for 4. You can breathe in for 4 and hold for 4 and release for 4. Kids love games. Play it as a game. See how long you can extend that breathing. You can breathe in for 5, breathe in for 6, breathe in for 7. Just hold for the same amount. If you do it on the way to school, it has this magical way of really relaxing the nervous system, really stopping the fight or flight response. It gets everybody calm, and also it awakens your brain. When you deep breathe, it activates your frontal lobe, gives oxygen there, which is what you need for learning and concentration. When your child and you make a ritual of relaxing on the way to school, and maybe even from school, then that becomes an anchor where on the way to school we relax. We get to school and we're relaxed. So it's a great thing you can do with your child if they are having a stressful situation, are panicking about something. You can do this breathing before bed or first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning, kids don't want to get out of bed. They just really, really don't like that at all. So a getting out of bed game might be nice. This is a great reminder for parents that getting out of bed, if there's yelling and screaming and stress going on, then your child is going to feel stressed and upset for the rest of the day, and so are you. So what kind of a game can you create? So maybe it's something where the first person to the table gets a piece of candy in their lunchbox, if that's acceptable. Maybe it's one of those things where we get out of bed and we learn a new yoga pose for the day if you're into yoga. Super relaxing, super focusing of the mind. Kids love it. You get to act goofy, be in weird shapes, but one, not a whole yoga routine. I mean, you could do that if that's your family's ritual already, but one where mom's silly, dad's silly, and kids get to be silly learning a yoga pose. Anything that you can think of. Maybe it's music. Maybe you wake up with the Beatles every morning. I know a teacher who does that. Beatles, Queen, any of those fun kind of songs he has as an anchor in his classroom every morning. It gets everybody ready to learn and relieves some stress. So fun music in the morning. Wake your kids up with fun music. Maybe you do a little dance every morning. Something that lifts the energy, lifts the mood, and doesn't bring it down with upset, yelling, and stress. Because mornings can be super stressful, especially if you're not a morning person. So parents, if you love the Beatles or you love Queen or any of those kind of rock and roll songs, and you dance to them, your mood is going to be elevated too, and your kids are going to watch you not being stressed, but being excited about the morning and excited about the day. I know it's hard to get into these kind of things, but if you try it even one time and see what your kid likes. Hey, good morning, here's the Beatles. Maybe you're a terrible singer and you sing along with the Beatles and it gets your kid to laugh. Laughter is better than crying in the morning. It's better for you, and it's really, really better for them. Another thing you can do is a real mild aromatherapy. Now, I'm warning you that it really does need to be mild, because scents and smells, lots of people are sensitive to them, and if it's too much and it's on your child's clothes or hair when they get to school, there could be a problem with sensitivity. But having something very mild in the car, like lavender, can calm everybody. Or citrus is very uplifting. So lemon and orange, lime are very uplifting and wake up the brain and wake up the senses and feel and smell good. So that's a nice thing. So get into some aromatherapy. Ask friends. There's so many people into doTERRA and Young Living, and your health food store has them. You can find out what you need. Vanilla is a very good one too. It's very nurturing and calming to the nervous system. So using some of those things in your car is a lovely, lovely, lovely idea. So I'm looking at my notes here. I want to make sure I give you everything that I promised. So the other thing is a walk. If you happen to live in a climate where you can walk to school or from school, this is huge, because walking gets out that adrenaline. It's what your body is supposed to do with adrenaline and the fight or flight response. It's supposed to move that adrenaline out of the body. So movement of any kind. So if you can exercise, that's great. But walking and talking before or after school. You're not looking at each other eye to eye, you're shoulder to shoulder, which is a more friendly, this is psychogeography, more friendly way to be, shoulder to shoulder with your child, side by side. And you can just start slowly talking about maybe what's happening with your child. How do they feel about things? Lots of times kids don't want to talk about things. So maybe you talk a little bit about how you feel. Whatever you do, don't go straight at your child with what's wrong, what's happening in school, how are your grades, but soft conversation about how they're feeling about things, about how things are going in their lives, in a way that they will talk to you. You know, what's happening in their game. My son, it's D&D. That's the way he communicates with me, is through his D&D game, which means that it's on me to know about that, to learn about how to ask him the right questions. So he'll talk to me about something, I have no idea what he's saying, but I repeat back to him what he said to me. And then he feels heard. So we're having a conversation about something I don't know anything about, but I find a place where I can ask a question. So it's a dice game. Do you always get to roll that many times? How do people feel when they get that bad roll? I mean, whatever it is, you find a way to repeat back what they said and then ask them a question. And then you feel like you're in conversation with them. So this is just a simple trick. That little communication piece, it's called backtracking with your kids. It's a way for them to really feel heard and for you to actually be sure what it is they're saying to you. That's one of our kids' biggest things. Mom, you don't listen to me. Well, it's mostly because we don't understand what they're saying. This generation, even if you're a parent who's, let's say 26 and you have a 6-year-old, it's a different generation. They're talking about different things. So make sure you backtrack. Repeat back to them what they said. So if my son tells me that he's creating a new character, I'll say, great, so you're creating a new character. What's it about this time? Because I know there's been several times. I can't ask him about genre. I just have to ask the most basic. What's it about this time? What do you call it? You know, what are you using to create it? What are your tools this time? So even though I'm not really on the same page with him, he feels heard, and I get to have some insight about what's really going on in his life. And then he'll talk about what's happening in his group. So that's a big, big way. Another thing I want to share with you is this. It's Rescue Remedy from Bach flowers. It's a homeopathic. And homeopathics, they're just very benign. You can use them in any drink, any food. It's a tiny, tiny tincture. 1 or 2 or 3 drops. This really stops shock in the body. And when we go back into a situation that can be very threatening, like school can be very threatening to our kids and to us, a few drops of this in their water every day, in their lunch, in a water bottle, in the milk at home in the morning. If there's a drink that everybody drinks, orange juice, you can put it in that. Really helps stop that fight or flight. It really helps calm our nervous system. And I would recommend this for every day of school. Every day for you and your child. It's something I use often, and I've used for my family for as long as I've known about it, which is probably 20 years. One story is that a friend of ours had a wedding with a family that when they got together, there was a massive amount of fighting. So my friend, she was really young at the time, she rode her bike over to my mom's house and asked for the rescue remedy, took it back and put it in the iced tea, and she reported that 20 minutes later, everybody was calm and chatting nicely. It's very impactful, very powerful, and very safe. But I would say, look into it, do your research, know if this is something that you want to use. And it's just something that is really safe and great for kids, so give that one a try. The other thing I want to share with you is something, as if you've been watching me, we've been talking about lately. And this is if you want to do a deep dive. 2 things if you want to do a deep dive. If you really want to combat stress, if you want to help your kids focus, if you want to keep them from being traumatized by school, or work on ways that they have been traumatized, work on about ways they're feeling about things, if they're angry at you, if they're angry at school, these are some ways that you can work with them. So if you're really wanting to take the stress of school head on, 2 things. One, I would recommend someone like Barbara Gilman. You can find her at barbaragilman.com. And she is an expert in parenting and changing the language. She uses access consciousness, which has a whole set around how kids with disabilities, that we call disabilities, are actually extra abilities. They call them X-Men for that reason. They really help you change the conversation around learning disabilities, autism, and all kinds of things, and just dealing with kids in general. So it's huge. That's barbaragilman.com and accessconsciousness.com. And then there's the Cogno Ball. So if you guys have been watching, we've been talking about this a lot lately, and I want to actually show you how you would do this. So for focus, before school, you can simply do a 1-minute session with the ball. And this is a great way to break tension and stress because it's playing and it's movement. The Cogno Ball accesses both sides of the brain and it integrates it so that they're both working at the same time. We're working with cross-body movement, which activates both sides of the brain and both sides of the body. We're working with auditory, visual, and kinesthetic touching, which is the way that people learn. So if we can prepare our child in 1 minute before they go to school in the morning, I don't know what is better than that with auditory, visual, kinesthetic, cross-body. We also are including rapid eye movement, which helps. So the 1-minute session would look something like this. You would toss the ball to them, they catch it on one side and call out the color. I'm seeing orange. Other side, yellow. Throw it again, green. You get the picture. For 1 minute, you can go up to as much as 5 minutes if you want to, but 1 minute does it. If you start low, throw the ball low, blue, purple, and move upward, green, blue, green, purple, and end with the eyes up. Through eye accessing cues, you can end on a high note. So with eyes up is always inspiration. We know this movement. So we know that body language. You can have your child look down with eye accessing cues and focus on something that's bothering them. So let's say they don't like math. I just worked with my own son with this. He hates math. So with this, we were able to clear his hatred for math, which makes it much easier for him to then concentrate on math. So you'd have him look down, just connect in with the physical body. Where do you hate math? Oh, maybe here. Okay, hold on to that feeling of hating math right here. And then throw the ball. Orange, blue, orange, purple, all the way up where you end on a high note. It brings up in the body the endorphins from the movement, but also from the eye accessing cues. So they're connecting in down and they're ending it high, where math and this high feeling that you're having now connect, and you've broken the cycle of I hate math. So the other thing is feelings. Like, you know, most kids past the age of 10, they don't want to talk to us about their feelings. With this method, they don't have to. So let's say they come home irritated, aggravated, in a nasty preteen mood, and you can just say, hey, let's toss the ball. You know, where are you feeling whatever that thing is you got going on? Where are you feeling it? Well, I'm feeling it in my gut. What's it feel like? Well, it feels like a rock. Okay, hold on to that rock. Hold on to it. Just feel it. It's nasty. Feel it. So, holding on to that nasty feeling, blue, purple, you get the idea. And we move it up. We can even start to use language that's lighter. It's getting a little lighter. You know, it feels a little bit hard. It's a little bit like a rock. It's, you know, less and less as we move up. That's a little bit of an advanced skill. Trauma. So I want you to think carefully about trauma and your kids in school, because as we know, when we are done with school, that we look back on that stuff and some of it we're like, oh, you know, it was the end of the world at the time, but now that I'm a grown-up, I know that it really didn't matter. However, there's a lot of that stuff that really does matter to us as we get older, and we hold on to it. It matters in our self-esteem. It matters in the way we think about other people or learning even. And so as parents, we want to make sure we don't diminish what feels like trauma to our kids at the time. Like, does the person that I like in school like me back? Did someone make fun of me in school? Did I get a bad grade and did my teacher call me out in school? Did kids accidentally find out that I didn't do well? You know, with other little kids, I mean, did they wet their pants or throw up at school? A million of these things can happen, and we want to make sure that we understand it's real trauma, it's real to them, and we don't want to discount it in any way, shape, or form. And with the ball, what's great about that is they don't have to talk about it and they don't have to tell us their feelings. They get to hold on to them as tight as they want to, and then we toss the ball. You know, whatever it is, back and forth, green, orange, red, purple. Notice how my eyes are moving back and forth. Kids catch with both hands. We're doing cross-body movement. So again, the movement itself is a great distraction. 2, because we're moving, we're calling out colors. Sometimes we call out symbols, and we're holding on to that terrible feeling. It dissolves. It just can't persist. It breaks the loop in your child's physiology of that perceived real or not real trauma. And then they don't take it with them the rest of the day, the rest of the year, or the rest of their lives. So it's really important as parents to notice these little things, acknowledge them, and then just work them out of the body as fast as we can. We need 1 minute. That's all it takes. So again, parents, if any of this helped you, please let me know. If you have any questions about any of it, please let me know that too. Ask me. I'm open to questions. Reach out to Barbara Gilman at barbaragilman.com. If you want to learn some brand new language about how to talk to your kids, talk about your kids, and think about what's happening with them. And if you're really interested in learning about Cogno movement, we have a couple things coming up. There's an online self-study course that you can take in your own time, and it actually comes with a practitioner certificate. And two, and this one I think is the best option, in September 20th through 22nd, there is a live training in San Diego. You do get a practitioner certificate. Bill McKenna is going to be leading that event, and he will be teaching some of the secrets of the masters, which are things you can definitely use with your kids, your spouse, your family, or if you are a practitioner of any modality that works with children, or if you're a teacher, come and learn this modality with us. It is simple, it's easy to learn, and it is massively, massively effective. So I'm using it in my practice. I use it with my family for sure. I'm using it in training athletes, which has been miraculous. And I use it with clients who are wanting to shift other things in their life. Now I do use other modalities as well, but more often than not, I'm using at least in one part of the session this ball because it helps us clear some of this trauma out. So I hope you guys are not too panicked about school. I'm working through my own panic about school, even though I don't have anybody in regular school now. So let's talk about this as the school year goes on. Let me know what else you want to know about if you want some solutions for other things that I haven't touched on about school. So I'm Liz with Transform One Idea. To learn more about the ball, cognomovement.com. To learn more about Barbara Gilman, B-A-R-B-R-A, BarbaraGilman.com. And you can find me at transformoneidea.com, and it's the word one spelled out, transformoneidea.com. We'll talk to y'all soon. Ciao for now. Bye.